anything turned out to be a small house of white brick with a bright red roof. "That's where the mirror is?" May asked the wolf, who nodded. Jack glanced at the animal. The wolf's teeth were bared, which couldn't be a good sign. "What's wrong?" Jack asked him. The wolf's eyes narrowed. "After so many years, I have the red hood in my paws." He smiled, licking his lips. "Wait here," he said, then loped off into the forest. A few seconds later, they caught sight of him slinking low to the ground across the clearing, moving silently to the cottage's nearest window. The wolf pulled himself up ever so slowly, then peered within. After a moment, he sank back down to the ground, turned around, and returned the way he came, surprising all three of them when he appeared behind them a moment later. Before they could ask the animal what he found, the wolf cursed several times. "She is not there," he growled, his eyes as red as fire. "How would you know?" Jack asked. "I mean, you said you couldn't track her. How can you be sure?" The wolf stared at him, a furious look painted across his long face, making Jack take an involuntary step backward. "I cannot see or smell her," the wolf spat out. "But I could hear her if she was there. There is nothing alive in that cottage." "But the mirror," May said, holding up the necklace. "You know for sure it's there?" The wolf nodded. "It is in there somewhere," he said. "My senses do not lie." "Perhaps the mirror is there, but the red hood is simply out," Philip suggested. "Maybe we should check," Jack said. "We might be able to just sneak in and take the mirror. That'd be easier than dealing with one of the Wicked Queen's monsters." "Agreed," said Philip. "No," growled the wolf quietly. "I have waited much too long for this moment. I will not leave until I have dealt with the Red Hood once and for all. Go fetch the mirror. I will keep watch for the Red Hood." May nodded and started jogging off toward the cottage, so Philip and Jack had no choice but to follow. As Jack passed the sword, he grabbed it from the ground and returned it to its scabbard on his back. A scabbard that clearly wasn't holding it tightly enough if it could just fly out like that. May reached into the cottage first and tried the door, only to find it locked. Jack and Phil both tried it as well, while May rolled her eyes at their need to confirm the obvious. Instead of wasting more time, Jack took out the witch's knife and used it to slice through the lock, which it cut through as easily as it had the trees in the Black Forest. As he finished, Jack took a hold of the knob and gently opened the door, its loud squeaking startling a large blackbird from its perch on the roof. Inside, the little cottage was filled with shadows despite the sunlight outside, so Jack reached back and pulled out his sword. Its glow gave them enough light to see by. The cottage had just one room, though it was much larger than Jack's cottage back home. Flowered curtains hung over the windows, obscuring the outside light, while wooden furniture overflowed the cramped space. The biggest piece of which was a 4-poster bed covered with linens that matched the curtains. Jack rolled his eyes. "This whole place just stinks of evil," he said sarcastically. "Do not be fooled by appearances," Philip said. "Pleasant exteriors sometimes mask the worst interiors." "I agree," May said. "Flowers on the curtains? This place hurts my interior." As the three of them entered the cottage, Jack raised an eyebrow. "So, where's the mirror?" he asked. They all took a quick look around, searching under the bed, through the closet, even in the chest of drawers. Then, almost at exactly the same time, they all looked up from what they'd been doing. Up to the wall next to the door. Looked up at the mirror hanging on the wall. 3 mouths dropped open at the same time. "She's using the most powerful magic item of all time. As a regular mirror?" Jack asked. "That cannot be it," Philip said, also shocked. "For her to be so open with it." Jack nodded. Philip seemed to have identified the problem exactly. How could she be so unconcerned? Granted, the mirror on the wall really didn't look like anything special, apart from what looked like gold in the frame. Age had worn down many of the elaborate lines in the mirror's frame to the point Jack couldn't tell what they had originally looked like. Other than that small design, however, the whole thing looked completely ordinary. This certainly wasn't the all-powerful evil item of doom they had all been expecting. Maybe hiding it in plain sight wasn't such a bad idea. May moved in, followed closely by Jack and Philip. The princess peered at the top of the mirror, then turned around and pointed. Sure enough, there at the top, where the worn down lines came together, was a small indentation in the shape of a crown. It really was the mirror. Jack cleared his throat, feeling that this was too important a time not to say something to impress upon the other two just how momentous their find truly was. Unfortunately, May beat him to it. "And lime," the princess said, tapping the mirror's glass with her fingernail. "The glass is even cloudy. What a letdown!" Jack and Philip both looked at her, trying subtly to make the point that maybe such a comment wasn't the most appropriate reaction for such a significant moment. But she steadily ignored their questioning glances. Instead, May pulled the necklace out from beneath her tunic and held up the crown at the end of it. "Should I put it in?" she asked them. "Or should we wait till we find the Red Hood and, beat her up?" "One thing at a time," Jack said quickly, yanking May's hand away from the mirror. The whole idea of unleashing the mirror's power again turned Jack's toes cold, but they didn't really have a choice. Still, it could wait until they were safely away from the Red Hood's home, if nothing else. "How do we handle this?" May asked. "What if she comes in? If she's as powerful as the Wolf King says, she could kill us all." Just then, a very feminine shout of surprise came from the path leading into the clearing. "Who's there?" the voice yelled out. Instantly, Jack, Philip, and May turned to the front of the cottage to find the front door still standing wide open. "Whoops," May said softly. "Hide," Philip hissed. And, not having a better plan, all three ran and slid underneath the oversized bed. The bed's linens overhung the side, giving them some cover, if not nearly enough. Unfortunately, they had no other choice. No, they were just going to have to hide beneath the bed and hope that May's big bad wolf protector would come in and save them all from the Red Hood.